What's up, Professor Wergely's here. We just finished the deserialization where we handle the open. We're reading in the string, parsing the JSON object, and putting it back to a person object. We also handle the serialization where we take the person object, modify it to a string, take the string and output it to a file. You'll see handle close. Whenever they close the window, we want to make sure that they've saved their information. It's exactly like we did up here. So whenever they open the data, have they modified the data? If they have, do they want to continue when the data has not been saved? If they say yes, go ahead and continue. We're going to do that on the close as well. So you'll see here, I'm going to grab the form data, store it to a person. If the person object does not equal null, and the person does not equal the form data, that means they've modified their information, then we're going to ask them, are you sure you want to close the stage? If they say no, we'll return and we won't close the stage. If they say yes, then we'll skip this and we will close the stage and they will lose their information that they've typed. You'll see I have the handle about, which shows the about information. I have create validated person from form data. We went over that in the first video. Create person from form data. We went over that in the second video. We also went over fill form from person, which takes the person objects and fills out the form. You'll see I have display error alert, which is the same as the previous example, as well as display exception alert, which shows the user what's happening if an exception occurs. And here's the confirm continue on unsaved data. It's basically an alert, lets the user know that there's been changes. If they click OK, we'll return true. Otherwise, we're going to return false. Now we need to do this on the stage close. So it'll be similar to this method here, handle close. This is when they click on the file menu option. So if I go back to the app, if I click close here, this function or this method will be called. So we want to do that even when they close the stage. What if they accidentally close the stage and there's some unsaved changes? So we're going to do the same concept. We'll create a person from the form data. We can go to this method. So if I go to navigate, go to declaration, we'll create a new person object. We'll grab the form information. We'll get the text. We'll set it to the person. We'll get the age, convert it back to an int. We'll set the age, and we'll get the gender from the combo box and set the gender. And then we'll actually return that person object. So I go back to the top. So we're going to create a person from the form data. Here's that person object. First, do we have data that's already been loaded? If there's no data loaded, that means this person hasn't been saved before, which means they haven't modified it. So if person is equal to null, there's no reason to continue. But if person is not equal to null, which means they have loaded data before, then the question is, does the person that's been loaded equal the person from the form? If they do not equal, that means the user has modified the data. So then we need to check. We need to say if confirm continue on unsaved data. Notice how I'm labeling these methods. Yes, this is a long method. Okay, it's not easy to write, but it's really easy to read. By creating methods like this, I don't need to write a bunch of comments. This is easy. If the person doesn't equal null, and if the person doesn't equal the form person, which is the form data, then we need to ask the user, do you want to continue on unsaved data? So by creating methods with easy to read names, you can write less comments in the code. You can write less documentation. If you've ever seen really beautiful code, you don't really need to read comments about it because the code is so clean and so easy to read. The code itself is its documentation. So if they confirm, yes, I want to continue even though I haven't saved the data, I can do this. WE, which is the window event, okay, which is the window event, dot consume. Now what's this going to do? I can right click and do a show Java doc. You'll see consume, marks this event as consume. This stops its further propagation. Okay, this stops its further propagation. So you see is consumed indicates whether this event has been consumed by any filter or handler. So it's going to stop. It's not going to continue. So this will stop the closing from happening. So I closed the window by accident. I didn't save the data. Message pops up to the user and says, hey, are you sure you want to close the window? You haven't saved the data. And if they say, yeah, I don't need that data, then they'll go ahead and continue. But if they say, no, I don't want to delete that data, then the close request will cancel and the window will stay open. Now, this is a great user experience. Okay, you need to think about this when you're building your final project. If I go back over to the final project criteria, you'll see UI development and consistent design, but also error handling, okay, and usability, overall purpose. So you need to be thinking about this. You need to think about the design when you're creating the application. You also need to think about the user experience. If you have a good user experience, you protect your users' data, which means you don't serialize their social security number. You don't pass private information out. You protect them from overriding their information, overriding their data when they accidentally close the window. It'll be really easy to use, good user experience, and they'll want to continue using your app. That's very important when you're trying to build an app for a business or for the industry. If you're working at a company, you want to have a good user experience so users continue to use your application. Speaking of user experience, I have one more thing to show you. We actually forgot it on the serialization example, the first example. I'm going to show you how to take care of the user in the next video. Stick with Professor Wergeles, and we'll see you in the next video.